Hello once again to our listeners. Welcome back to the ninth episode of the IVSA Kelantan podcast show. Today we have with us Dr. Chong Siu Shen, or better known as Dr. Sandie, by our University Malaysia Kelantan students. And a little bit of Dr. Sandie's background. Dr. Sandie graduated from University Putra Malaysia with a degree in veterinary medicine in the year 2000. She then went on to obtain a master's in veterinary medicine in theriogenology in 2002. Dr. Sandie also received her PhD in veterinary medicine from the University of Nottingham from the UK in 2016. Dr. Sandie has many notable accomplishments, including Senior Veterinary Officer at the Department of Wildlife and National Parks headquarters in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and also Deputy Head of the University Interdisciplinary Research Cluster, Zoonotic Disease and Public Health. She is currently a Senior Lecturer and Deputy Dean of Academic and Student Development at University Malaysia Kelantan's Faculty of Veterinary Medicine. Dr. Sandie has authored numerous studies and also publications. She also has expertise in disease research, zoo and wildlife animal medicine, and ex situ management. Furthermore, she has studied bioinformatics and molecular characterization of mammalian transcriptomes in a variety of species, including cattle and wildlife. She is here with us today to discuss climate change and its effect on emerging zoonotic diseases. Hello, Doctor.
Hello, Ada. Hope you're
Hello.
doing well.
Yeah. Are you alright, Doctor? Are
Yeah,
you
very
well?
good. Thanks.
Okay. So, can we proceed to the questions? So
All right.
the first questions for today's episode, which is climate change and its
Mhm.
effects on emerging zoonotic disease, is that can you please give us a brief explanation like how climate change can affect these emerging zoonotic diseases?
All right. So mainly we are concerned about the rise in temperature and precipitation. So that gives pathogens a better or more suitable environment for them to survive or to thrive in. So previously, pathogens are unable to survive the cold in the more temperate countries. Now with the rise in temperature, they are much more able to survive and to spread diseases in the countries that they were previously not reported in or infected people. Similarly, if there are vectors that are involved, so vector-borne diseases, often these are insects or even arthropods. Again, these animals, they are not able to survive in cold climates. And now with the rise of temperature, they are able to, and with them, if they are carrying diseases, they are able to spread the disease in previously not areas that have not reported such diseases. Okay, and similarly for people, especially the ones that are heavily rely on agriculture for their livelihood. So with climate change, there could be extended period of times of drought. Um, so they are unable to continue with their, for example, agricultural activities. So they may move to another areas. So together with them, perhaps there would be a movement of illness and the vectors as well. And when they move, they may encounter different people, different animals, and there are possibility of exchanging of pathogens, especially viruses, which we most of us know that they are much more readily to mutate when they encounters different conditions. And additionally, now there are more encroachment of people into forested areas, whether to search for materials for consumption or to sell, um, and as well as also more people are interested in recreational activities in forested areas. So that may increase the direct or indirect contact with infected or carriers animals in this location. So they may get infected. Okay. Again, about the temperature. There'll be melting of the permafrost. So the North Pole and the South Pole, they could be melting. So that would have released dormant viruses or other pathogens that have not infected people or human or animals in the recent years. So we are rather naive towards them. So when they are released into the environment, so when they are frozen, they are dormant. So once they are released, they are able to infect. And so basically, if you talk about viral infections, is been mainly our immune system reacting to it. So sometimes the consequences of viral infection is not the viral infection itself. It could be the aggressiveness of the our immune system fighting against the viruses that lead to destruction of the organs, and or on the other way, because our immune system are not have not been exposed to these pathogens, so they may not be able to react fast enough. So some of these viruses, they invade uh, cells, and they may, as they multiply, they may destroy these cells, and lead to perhaps again systemic failure, and eventually could, if severe enough, it could lead to death. So a classic example of Nipah virus back in 1990s, early 2000. So epidemiology, we thought that due to the dry and hot climate weather, led to um, possibly forest fires, and the bats have lost their food sources, which made them um, come out from the forested areas and go towards look for food. And unfortunately, they go to orchards that is nearby the pig farms, and pigs so happens to be multiplying hosts, and with the increased number of viruses, it was able to infect humans. So I hope that kind of give you an overview of how climate change actually built on the emerging zoonotic diseases.
Yeah, doctor, I understand
Okay.
about it. Is a
Mm-hmm.
very interesting actually.
Yep.
Yeah. So, moving on to the next question is
Mm-hmm.
about the COVID-19 virus. So,
Mm-hmm.
genomic sequencing revealed that the COVID-19 virus is phylogenetically related to
Mm-hmm.
severe acute respiratory syndrome like bat virus. So,
Mm-hmm.
are there any theories that support this on how the virus mutated to infect humans?
Okay. So up to today, there isn't a concrete very firm evidence to say that this is exactly how it happened. There's still a lot of speculation and theories. So you were right. So the genomic sequencing showed that the COVID-19 is it resembles the bat COVID RATG13 very closely. In fact, over 90%. So it's therefore people presume that it originates from the bats. However, there are theories to say that perhaps it's not directly bat to human. Did not jump so directly, because as we have studied virology, viruses are generally very host specific, or else we have been infected by coronavirus from all the species. In fact, dogs and cats also have their own species coronaviruses as well, and we are not infected by it. Um, so the speculated would be perhaps the bats may infect the wild animals. Um, so basically, COVID-19, the evidence keep on pointing back to the wet market. So animals that are there's a practice in China that they consume wild animals as like exotic meats or wild game meat. So when there's a assembly of various species of animals, um, there may be a massive amplifying events that occurred. So not a single event, or not even involving just a single species. And this is evident from the fact that the researchers found a lot of environmental samples that tested positive, and not so much on the animals. Um, So this show that there could be multiple transmission and even viral mutation. And another thought is perhaps there'll be there could be just one person that is immune compromised. So because usually we will not get infected, but unfortunately this one person is immune compromised. He or she got infected, which allow the virus to enter and mutate in the human body. And when it uh, is it coincidentally or by force nature, it became a variant that can easily infect human. So when you see when the viruses infect from human to human, that makes the spread so fast and less more difficult to control. Because when you talk about zoonotic diseases, if it's just directly from animal to human, it is much more easier to control. But once it's have changed to your is the transmission can occur between human to human, then it's very difficult. Because with human animals, we can stop the movement of animals. We can, if it's severe enough, we may even cull the animals. That's it, which is an unfortunate consequence, but it's something that can be done to safeguard the human health. So, but when we come to human, it's sometimes it's not even easy to control human movement. So that is some of the theories that came out from research from multiple agencies.
Okay, doctor. So let's proceed to the next question. This question is relating to monkeypox virus.
Mhm.
So recently, there is a rising concern regarding cases of this monkeypox virus, with a total of 92 confirmed cases in between 13 until 21 May, which is according to WHO. So, how does human contact with animals related to cases such as these?
All right. So historically, monkeypox is rather rare. So is if there's outbreak is concentrated in Central Africa areas, unless there are sporadic cases outside of Africa, but generally is not so widespread. So how it's being transmitted is this is a very not only it transmit from animal to human, that's zoonotic, and once a human is infected in it, he or she will be excreting the viruses through the nasal, like when people sneeze and cough, um, and when they develop skin lesions, just like chickenpox, is quite infective if we come into contact with the scabs and all that. So when that happens, it actually can pass from human to human. So again, as I said before, if it's becoming a transmission between human to human, from human to human, it is, if it's not the source is not identified and controlled, so it will lead to a quite widespread pandemic. And even though the name is monkeypox, the infected animals is not restricted to the monkeys alone. In fact, they believe that the rodents may play a bigger role as the initial spread of diseases from animals to human. So and human, not just you are coming into contact with the humans. If they yeah if anyone get contact with the contaminated materials, such as even if we share clothings or same bed, or because the beddings will be, you have the viral particles there, or anything that has the viral particle that may lead to infection. So that is how we are not just looking at human contact with animals. I believe the widespread is more likely due to human contact.
Okay, doctor. So it's like human to human contact is much is more problematic issues compared to like animals to humans contact.
Yeah, it's more difficult to control.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's it. That is all from me. So I will pass the platform to Jaya.
Okay, thank you, Ada. And as for Doctor, we will continue with the questions, okay?
All right.
Okay, so for the next question is, what are some of the things that us veterinarians can do to prepare for these emerging zoonotic diseases in regards to one health, and also the ways to mitigate climate change?
Okay. For emerging zoonotic diseases, because as vets we have always been on a being reminded always be careful of zoonotic disease because we are dealing with animals directly. So I guess for vets to be on the alert of any emerging zoonotic diseases, if you see something that is unusual transmission, um, even the something that's unusual in the animals, and if it involves the owners, let's say the own, sometimes you do see the owners, or they will say that, oh, I'm also having a similar symptom as my pets. So that may raise an alarm that, oh, is there a possibility of emerging zoonotic diseases that could eventually lead to an outbreak? Um, um, and as vets themselves and the staff. So what we have been doing due to the COVID-19 pandemic, to take precautionary steps to take care of hygiene, wearing of face masks, the use of disposable gloves that could protect us as a frontliner towards these zoonotic diseases, and to give advices to the owners, and most very importantly to report to the relevant authorities for them to take further actions. And for us, because we take care of animal health, so through preventive medicine, we can ensure that the animals are in optimum health at most of the time, and that will lower the risk of infection. So in a way, we can try to reduce the risk or chances of infection. On the part of mitigating climate changes, that would be a task that beyond us. But what we can do is whatever small part that we can play, perhaps in the practices or even the household, prevent wastage. Uh, I think that is quite a common occurrence worldwide, not just in the not limited to the vet profession. I think there is something sometimes we take it as granted. Um, Also to reduce waste, so try not to use up too much of the our resources, even even water, even electricity, because all that take a lot of energies to produce, and later to treat it so that is usable again. um, Even I've just heard recently, even there's advertisement online, in the radio or online, even spam emails that is kept in our email folders, we should take carry of it because it's taking space and energy to keep them in the email folders. That is quite a revolution to me. So I have thousands of emails to delete. Wow, that will take me a few days. um for Malaysia, unfortunately, to travel or to logistics, I mean, to get to work and all that, many of us use our personal vehicles, so that is not really helpful to the environment. But sometimes it's out of our control. So unless uh, the local or the federal government can improve on the public transport, which can benefit many more of us, then that could help. Because in fact, air pollution itself could also reduce a person, or even I would think animal will be affected as well. So a lot of air pollution, it will also reduce our defense mechanism towards infection. So all that will come back and benefit everyone.
All right, thank you, doctor. And for the next question is, what are the approaches of identifying climate-sensitive infectious diseases in animals and humans, and what extent do us veterinarians play a role in it?
Okay. So I understand that this podcast may go beyond Malaysia. So for tropical countries, honestly, we know that it is one of the best ecosystem for pathogens because we have the humidity, we have the nice temperature for them to survive in. As vets, I guess to be aware to any potential any rise in diseases, particularly if we can identify zoonotic diseases, that is even more important, and report to the relevant authorities for them to further investigate because as a vet alone, we may not be able to do too much. So we will keep to our roles of keeping the animals healthy. But if something that is unusual, report it. For vets in the temperate countries, perhaps to be more aware of the tropical and subtropical diseases, it could be coming their way because this rise in temperature, the vectors are coming and the pathogens are more able to survive in previously areas that they cannot survive in. Okay? So again, if you see anything, any unusual diseases appearing, again, to alert the authorities, that would most likely could get things rolling to further prevent and control the spread. So you're talking about One Health with the emerging of zoonotic diseases. There are right now the collaboration between human and veterinary medicine practitioners and also the environmental sites. It is we have formed a better linkages and cooperation between different sectors. So if let's say we alert the vets will very quickly relay the information to the medical parts, and very quickly they could set up a task force to look into it very quickly before the condition gets out of control. Okay.
Okay, thank you, doctor. And for our last question of the day is, well, we talked about emerging zoonotic diseases, right? So what about those that re-emerge? What are the factors that make these diseases re-emerge, and what are the differences in handling them compared to when they were first found?
Okay. So with the advancement of healthcare and mass vaccination program, so some diseases have been eradicated or significantly reduced in many countries. For example, tuberculosis and use of discovery of medication to control the diseases such as malaria. It was almost unheard of for many years, in fact, because I remember in the 70s, people are very worried about malaria, but when it comes about in the 90s, 80s, late 80s, there wasn't that much of cases. Then now, malaria is up again. So it is related to perhaps increase in vectors, increase in contact with the potential carriers. Well, like you know now, malaria is the people laymen would call it monkey malaria, or we know this as Plasmodium nosai. So it's a new type of malaria that comes from non-human primates. So on the other note, when you talk about just now, we mentioned about monkey virus. So previously, when worldwide efforts to eradicate smallpox, so many of the population were vaccinated against smallpox, and the study have showed that this vaccine actually 85% up to 85% effective against monkeypox. So in a way, perhaps if people are exposed to monkeypox, they were not infected. So with the eradication of smallpox, I would say, if not worldwide, most of the countries in the world, many countries have stopped vaccination program for perhaps even 40, 50 years, depending where you are. But I would say in the last 10 to 20 years, we have not really been actively administering smallpox vaccine. So that could lead to the population become more vulnerable to monkeypox infection. Although luckily, from what we have seen so far, monkeypox does not lead to very severe disease condition. So obviously you have the scar like if we get chickenpox, but it's not deadly as smallpox. What else? Perhaps travels, whether for leisure or for work, they are increased. Except for during the past 2 to 3 years where international borders were closed, people are traveling again. And even before that, we see that perhaps foreign workers may bring diseases from endemic countries into a country that with very low incidence. That could be a possibility. And during COVID-19 pandemic, most of our resources and efforts were put into fighting COVID-19, and some of these diseases may be slightly neglected in a way because most of our efforts are going to only one area. So there will not be that much of difference battling these diseases because it is something that we already been dealt with. So we need to identify the viruses, epidemiology to pinpoint where are the resources, and carry out mitigation measures. So perhaps there's a need of studies to see whether the previous protocols and control measures, preventive measures, is it still effective? Because I don't know, perhaps if these viruses would have mutated and the vaccines is no longer effective, so might need to develop new vaccines. And if it's serious enough to resume vaccination program that we have stopped because the disease is no longer around, but now they came back, so we might have to start vaccinating the population again, build out the herd immunity, and perhaps even development of new medicine if these pathogens, especially like bacteria, they have developed antimicrobial resistance against the existing medication. So those are a few of the measures that we can take to combat re-emerging zoonotic diseases. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Doctor.
All right.
Thank you so much for all the insight just now, Doctor. And there is no doubt that climate change implicates the emerging diseases. We all play an important role in this by working hand in hand with others from different fields or in the same one can together reduce the emerging zoonotic diseases. Unfortunately, that is all the time we have for today. Thank you so much, Doctor, and also to the team. Thank you to all of our YouTube viewers for watching and to our Spotify listeners for tuning into every episode. Be safe out there and take care of yourselves.
Thank you very much, Doctor, and also thank you, Jaya.
Thank you, Doctor, and thank you, Ada.
All right. Thanks for inviting me. So I hope I am able to answer your question and increase the understanding on climate change and zoonotic diseases. So have a good day.